Hi, my team and I did an accessibility review or an audit for the dextermichigan.gov website. It was done for our class at Washtenaw Community College, and we made this presentation showing the highlights of our findings. First, we'll start off with the introduction. So, what is the Dexter of Michigan website about? It serves as a comprehensive resource for residents, visitors, and businesses. It provides access to a range of services and information, including government departments and services, community events, news, and public notices. Additionally, the site offers details on the city's parks and trails, economic development initiatives, and local governance such as city council meetings and public hearings. It's designated to facilitate engagement with city officials, access to services, and participation in community activities. And we'll start off with what's done well. And this is for accessibility. So later on, we'll start talking about what we found was wrong. But we say what was done well first, because when you start making changes later on, you want to keep in mind what was done well so that you don't change that. One really important thing is text scaling. The Web Content Accessibility Guidelines, which we'll go over later, it's like a standard that you can zoom up to 200% on a normal screen size. This is important for people who are visually impaired, which accounts for more people than you think it would, honestly. The website does that well, so you want to keep doing that. Everything's meaningfully sequenced. That means users that use keyboards, which a lot of times, like, it used to be more common, like a long time ago, but now a lot of people who have visual impairments will use it, or people who are using some sort of assistive technology. The site's not sound dependent, which is great for hearing impaired users. They can understand the site. What's also important is some people aren't hearing impaired, but they might not have speakers. Or maybe they have speakers, but they're in a public place. So they would be watching a video with subtitles. Maybe they don't have earbuds, but they need to understand something. The site's not sound dependent. If anything were to be added, just keep that in mind. Graceful degradation. Most JavaScript widgets are loaded in using JavaScript, so when JavaScript is disabled, they are not shown, which is desired. Additionally, there are multiple means of navigation, so the site is still functional with JavaScript disabled. So users can disable JavaScript, which is pretty uncommon now, but they might accidentally have it disabled. Maybe they, for some reason, want it disabled. There's not broken things, so when it's disabled, there's not just buttons sitting there that you can't interact with. Everything that is interactable only with JavaScript is loaded in using JavaScript. So when JavaScript is disabled, it's not there. So that's good. Contrast. So contrast is important for multiple reasons. Users that are visually impaired might have a harder time seeing, like, for example, like the background is a beige brown color and the text is black. If the text was white here, it would be really hard to read, and if you had a harder time seeing, then it would be really, really hard to read. Or if you had a screen and you had sunlight coming in behind you, maybe you're in a cafe or something, or on a bus, and there's just sunlight on your screen, it would make it really hard to read. So it's good to have a contrast there, and most of the site has a really good contrast, good color choices. Instructions. The website provides instructions on form fields which help users navigate through forms and understand how to complete them. That's good, because if you just have a blank bar there, if there was no search here, it'd be like, okay, what is this for? Sometimes there's context clues where things are, but search button, search here, and instructions. It's good. Interactive elements. The website's interactive elements are designed with a consistent style that captures their unique attributes. For example, links change color when a mouse hovers over them. In addition, the website has consistency in the appearance of the interactive elements. It's good to be consistent. You're not confusing your users. So, way to go. Responsive design. So, what this means is, see, this is a screen capture from about a desktop size. It looks like, I can show you a responsive design real quick. Ooh, this is zoomed in. So here I believe we're on the home page. Yeah, we're on the home page. Responsive design means that smaller phone sizes like this, it works on. I believe the standard, off the top of my head, it's about 350 pixels wide is about where you stop. They're expected to be able to do, and it all looks good. Like, this would work on a phone. Here I can just pull, like, here's an iPhone. Like, this is what it would look on an iPhone display. Tablet, it's good. So you want to keep up a responsive design as you keep building the site or making changes. Very great. Okay, now we're moving on to what can improve. The following slides identify accessibility pain points. Using the WCAG, also known as the Web Content Accessibility Guidelines, relevant accessibility goals are listed. Then possible solutions to these problems are presented. Often there's more than one approach to this, to the problem. Like, there's just the way you can program or write in things. You can take so many different approaches. So when implementing these better practices, just remember what you did good beforehand, and don't start, going off the rails and breaking things. It's a good idea to keep your good practices good. These solutions that we offer are not the only solutions, so they're just possible ones if you need ideas, but yeah, go at it. First problem: global navigation with assistive technology. While exploring the top global navigation and the side navigation, so this would be a subpage. The subpages have these side navigations, and then this is your top navigation. When you're exploring it with a keyboard, which would be the tab button on your keyboard, these drop down menus, this appears, this little down arrow, and when you're using a screen reader, it reads visited link, and that's all it reads. So if you were a user just tabbing, like hitting tab with a keyboard and going through with assistive technology, like reading it to you and you can't see, that would be really confusing. So the goal is and here's the web content accessibility guideline. If you want to go look at their guidelines and read them, this is where you're going to find it, the reference number. All non-text content that is presented to the user has a text alternative that serves the equivalent purpose. So you want to, anyone who's visually looking at that, you want to convey that through words. And then textual alternative information is updated when an element's state changes. So when this is interacted with, you want to update it and let that user know they did something. So if when you click this and then there's an expanded list, you want them to know it got expanded. Otherwise they might not know they did something. Could get a little confusing. Luckily that's fixable. What you would do is you'd use an area label in the HTML, and you would label it toggle government navigation, so that they know that's what that thing's function is. Here with this drop down, you would do toggle community navigation, or maybe it would be sub navigation. Either way. And then you want to also add area expanded, and then what that would do is when you click it and then you toggle this sub list here, you would have expanded equals true, and then so its default would be expanded equals false, and you change that with JavaScript. So that's what you want to aim for, is having an area label, and then that will meet those web content guidelines, which are especially important for government websites. I believe the Americans with Disability Act requires that you meet AA. I'd have to review that. Other countries have different guidelines that they have to meet, different standards, but this is important. Invisible calendar buttons. So on the calendar page, here's a screenshot of the calendar page. When you're using a keyboard to navigate that, you'll come across two buttons here. One of them is titled, if you hover over it, it's there too. It gives it this like dotted outline. When you hover over it, it gives it the title login. There's a second button between these two. The second button has the title of notes. Okay, and then on the click of note, when you click notes, it actually toggles this right here, this bar that just says close. So probably get rid of that would be the solution. And again, there's different solutions, so if you want this to work, you could change it to do whatever its original function was, but absolutely right now it's confusing, it doesn't work, so probably give that a look. I think that was overlooked. And then the goal here is content that's hidden from all users is hidden from assistant technology, but that seems like it's meant to be hidden. I'll give that a look. So we have the Dexter, Michigan Service Form Accessibility Part 1. So right now we have, we'll go through this, it'll probably be easier to go through this one problem at a time. The department drop-down does not gain focus like the rest of the form. What that means is here on your name you have a blue border. This is what's currently being interacted with in this image. So when the drop-down for your department gets interacted with, it does not gain that border. which here it's visually apparent when the page element has the current keyboard focus. So what you'd want to do is let that give that focus. You just style that with CSS and the focus and hover, probably ideally hover. Our next problem is the submit a service request / report a concern form area uses text area and no tag for the labels. We'll go to the next slide briefly to show this is what it currently looks like. It uses text area here. And the issue there is that text labels need to be associated with form inputs. And we'll go to the next slide again. The issue there is that you need a label to go with your input form, so that when the screen reader is reading and what the label is this part, and then this would be your input. The for and ID attributes would be able to connect that with a screen reader, and so that could be read aloud together. They'd be associated together instead of just your name and then input field, and then it would just get a little bit confusing because don't really know what's going on if you can't see. And then the input areas in the form have placeholder text, but the text has to be backspaced, otherwise it will remain in the input while the user is typing. What that means is when someone starts typing here, and the example is they're typing username, the your name text does not get backspaced. And what you'd want to do is add an attribute. You'd want to add an attribute placeholder and then on an input instead of a text area, and that way when they start typing it goes back. And then the text in the border is too light for the background, so it's a white background and the text border is a light gray, and it looked pretty light, and double checking it doesn't pass the ratio. So you can make that a darker gray and still get away with it, or you could use I think you would be fine with using black, but if you want it different for style reasons, you could just use a little bit darker of a gray. Just find a checker online and white background, and then your dark gray color, and then find one that has a good ratio. So social media, icons, and assistive technology. When you're on any page on the Dexter, Michigan site, there is a share button on the side of the page. It's always there, and if you scroll down, it sticks to the side. That's awesome. When you click it, it creates this pop-up, this share this page pop-up. When the fixed share button on the right of the page is clicked, there's a pop-up. Inside the pop-up, there are several social media icons. And the issue here is that when you try to hover over it with a screen reader or any assistive technology, it doesn't read anything aloud. And the reason for that is these are CSS background images, and which makes it a little more complicated to give it alternative text. But the WCAG guidelines read that background images that convey meaning have textual alternatives, and it does convey a meaning. So what you might do is you might change the anchors around the background images to be read aloud with JavaScript when they're hovered on, or you could change this to be a regular image, and an example of that is on the logo on the upper left corner of the site. That practice is used, so you could just copy that format and then use these images with it, and that would work. And you just use the alt text, Facebook or Instagram, or in links to Dexter's site. So that works. Yeah, this is pretty easy fix. You could use JavaScript. The reason I steer away from that is because if JavaScript was disabled, then it wouldn't fix the problem. So some things to take into account there. Contrast readability. So there's lots of good practices that we highlighted before, that there's good contrast, and then but there are some problem areas. Certain background color and text color combinations on the site create readability issues, and then the text and images of text have a contrast ratio of at least 4.5 to 1 is what the goal is. So why is this important? Visually impaired users account for a large part of the population, according to the CDC in 2023. 4.8% of US adults have a vision disability, with blindness or serious difficulty seeing even when wearing glasses. This does not include people who do not get routine checkups, so there are lots of people who use the internet who don't account for this statistic. Additional users can be environmentally impaired. I believe I explained this in the introduction, where if you have sunlight on your screen, then it creates an issue. And I believe this is a very helpful resource in whocanuse.com. So you could play around with different colors here, but this shows why it would be an issue. Right up here, what I can see, these are for people who can see all three primary colors. And then here's what it would look like for people with sensitivity to red. So it shows like, and then here's direct sunlight. Here's what that would look like. You can't see it like at all. So it's definitely helpful. And so areas like in the example, if I go back, when you hover over the navigation items in the top, it creates white text over this background, and you could kind of keep that effect, changing the background when things are hovered over, but also just change the text color to black, because it conveys like a change, but it also makes it readable. So we didn't want to mess with the background. Here's the text. There we go. And that's super readable, like even in direct sunlight. So you could do stuff like that. And if you want to get a more detailed look at the current color palette, here's the current color palette that the site uses, the main colors, so you can see what combinations are available there. And then there's also this resource here. You could go to this site, and you could play with palettes and colors and figure out what would work best. But there's a good palette there. Just if you change the background when you hover over things, you probably want to also change the text color. Use black on beige slash light brown color text instead of beige on beige. Use black on beige instead of white on beige. Use the darker gray and white backgrounds like in the form. But there's a good palette there you have to work with. And then the last problem, the home calendar on the home web page. It's good, except for it creates an error because it is an unordered list, and unordered lists are only supposed to have the first thing in them are supposed to be list items. And what's currently going on is it has a division tag, a div tag, before a list item. And what you could do when messing with the styling or the structure and styling. You could take the unordered list and a list item and then put the division symbol in front of that. And right now, on most browsers, it doesn't seem to be creating an issue. When you just look at it, where the issue really comes into play is when assistive technology is being used. It doesn't expect to see that. So if it does, it might just kind of blow up and stop working. And then also, if there's browser updates or a new browser is made and becomes popular and is like a standard, it might not work on it because it's not an expectation to see a division tag right in the unordered list. So probably give that a good look because it could create some unexpected results and just kind of like figuratively blow things up later and create a big issue. But if you have any questions, you can contact us. My contact's on my YouTube channel. You can email me, send me a message, and then my team members are Alyssa and Kayla, and if you need to get in contact with them, you can reach them through me. But any accessibility questions about this site, your site, just in general, feel free to shoot me an email. I'm around. I'll answer. But thank you.